Yes, it's John G. Sutton. Tales from the jails. I'm going to talk today about corruption in the prison system. And it's not just any kind of corruption, it's serious corruption that comes from the top. It doesn't just exist, in one or two jailers smuggling drugs in. That's minor corruption. That's what you'd expect. But we're talking about the kind of corruption that starts in the Home Office and moves down through MI5 to the prisons. I mean, for instance, did you know that many prisons have got within them, hidden in them, MI5 operatives, police officers who are seconded to MI5 because that's how they operate. They usually get senior CID officers and transfer them or second them to MI5 with specific instructions to get information on certain prisoners who are committing major crimes. And they place the police officers into the prisons undercover. The governor will know who these are, but the staff will not. The staff don't know, because if the staff did know, they would treat them perhaps slightly differently. So these police officers, and what they will do is they'll put the police officers into the same cell block as serious offenders who have got information on things like probably importing cocaine or various other category A drugs into Britain. And the idea is that they befriend them and get the information out of them. It's kind of undercover policing, really. It's just a step forward from just joining the team, being undercover. I have a personal friend of mine who spent, I think it was about 7 years undercover with the gangs in and around Greater Manchester, and indeed in London as well. She was all over the place. A lady detective, and she said it really played on her mind, what she had to do to ensure that she wasn't discovered. And part of the things that undercover police officers have to do is go to prison. Because if you haven't been in prison, if you don't have a prison record, the gangs don't trust you, you see. And they have no mistake, there's a very thin dividing line, the people that they do trust, the people that they don't trust. If you get involved in one of these gangs and they don't trust you, what they were doing in Manchester, this is the God's honest truth, they were removing their heads and putting their heads away from the bodies, of course, and dumping their heads in dustbins in Manchester. There was a spate of that. That was the drug gangs. Let me tell you another thing that the drug gangs do. They hire patsies. So the way it works is they get one of the team leaders in the gang. They go into the pubs and befriend somebody who's down on their luck, and they say, "Listen, you can earn yourself £1,000. All you've got to do is get onto the ferry at Hull, usually quite often Hull, and go over to Holland and pick up a package there, bring it back, and you smuggle it across and get it to us. And if you do that, you get that package back. As soon as it gets here, you get £1,000. They say we'll give you, say, £500 up front, and get your ticket and get yourself sorted out. And off they go, and they tell them what they say. It's a script, and the script is, I was travelling back on the boat, and a man came up to me and said that he'd overpacked his bags and he couldn't get this package in, and he didn't want it to be disturbed. It was a present for his grandmother or something, and would I carry it back? And that's the story that they tell the Customs and Excise when they get lifted. And they are going to get lifted because they've previously been tipped off by the gangs that somebody's coming over. You see, what happens here, we're talking about corruption, yeah? What happens here is the HM Customs and Excise have got to keep their numbers up. Like everybody else, they have to make arrests. Otherwise, it looks like they're just not doing their job. So they have to produce 2 or 3 arrests a week or a month, whatever it is, and get them convicted. So the patsy that's been recruited in a pub gets his money, gets his ticket, goes over to Holland, picks up this package. It won't be worth a great deal, but it will contain enough drugs to get him a proper sentence. And of course, the HMRC, HM Revenue, HM Customs and Excise have been tipped off what he looks like, what boat he'll be on, all the rest of it, what the package looks like, and they just take him to one side, search him. Of course, he gives them the prepared script that he's been told to give them. They know that they've got their man, and he's taken into custody and processed through the courts. Now, how do I know this? I'll tell you how I know it. I had a guy, he was a day labourer that used to do my back garden for me, and I paid him by the day, shifting bricks and laying flags and stuff like that. And I got a call from his sister one day. She said, "Can you help? They've taken him into custody and he's being held on remand in Hull prison." So I said, "Yeah, I'll go and see him," because she knew I knew what the score was, you see, me being in the prison service for so long. I'd left the prison service by then, of course. So I went to see this guy, and he told me the same script. He said, "Oh, I was coming back on the boat, and this guy asked me, will I take this parcel?" Because he overpacked his bags. And I said, "Why are you telling me this?" I said, "If you tell that story in court," I said, "the judge is going to give you 9 years, because it's utter nonsense. They hear that script all the time. If you do it, then you're going down for 9 years for smuggling drugs." I said, "And what's happened here is you're a patsy. You've been set up by these people. You are never going to get through because you've been fed to them. You're part of the system. They need to make arrests. You're it." Yeah. He said, "No," I said, I can't say anything else other than that. They've warned me. If I say anything other than the script that they've given me, they said they're going to kill me." So I said, "Well, you can expect to get 9 years." He eventually went up, like they'd told him to do. He told them that story to the court. The court said, "This is just a pack of lies. You deliberately misleading this court." And they actually got 8 years, not 9. And all he was doing, he was down on his luck. I mean, I was paying him on a daily basis, cash in hand. He was looking for a job, so I was just helping him out a bit, and he was helping me out by shifting all the rocks and laying the flags in my back garden. But that's corruption. And that's corruption that's known to the Home Office. They must know about it. Listen, if I know about it, they know about it, yeah? There was a big drug smuggler called Terry Sinclair. Don't take my word for it. Look it up on Google, Terry Sinclair. He was from New Zealand. He owned a yacht. He owned mansions all over the place. I think it was in Australia. He had places in New Zealand. He had a mansion in Barbados or something like that. Millions and millions of pounds, and he was the brains behind the drug smuggling operation into Europe, not just into Britain. He was a part of the team that committed the handless corpse. It wasn't the headless, it was handless, yeah? They chopped the hands off, they killed them, these people who had crossed the gang, Terry Sinclair's gang, and they cut their hands off and weighted them and dropped them into a place called Eccleston Delph, which was a quarry filled with water. But unfortunately for them, it was used by scuba divers, who were practicing the diving, and they went down and found these bodies at the bottom of the delf with their hands chopped off. Yeah, so anyway, the police eventually locked the gang up. Quite how they did it, I can't tell you, but they did find them. And in prison, in strange ways, was Terry Sinclair. Now, I knew Terry Sinclair because I was a hospital officer and he was on certain medications, and I went to see him 2 or 3 times a day with his medication. He was on remand and he exercised all the rights of a remand. He had his prepared food brought in from outside. He was allowed to smoke at that time. He was smoking cigars. He was allowed wine and all the rest of it. He was living the life of a mafia don inside Strange Ways block. Yeah, seriously. And what happened? He let everybody know that he was offering £1 million if anybody would get him out of Strange Ways. Well, one of the staff, believe this or not, was associated to the IRA, and he contacted them. Seriously, he did. And with an attempt to break Terry Sinclair out, the IRA couldn't get him out, and the member of staff, I don't know what happened to him, but he wasn't there one day, so I assumed that they got rid of him. But Terry Sinclair was moved from Strange Ways to Birmingham prison, to HMP Birmingham, where shortly after his removal to that prison, he was found at approximately 4 a.m. in the morning in his cell, where he had, according to the reports, suffered from a massive heart attack. Terry Sinclair was about 45, 50, 45-ish. Yeah, seemed reasonably fit when I saw him. He was on medication, but nothing serious. And but he was found dead in his cell at 4 a.m. in the morning. And he was a Category A prisoner. And the thing was, it was the person who found him. He was found by the chief medical officer, who was accompanied by the number one chief discipline officer, who was accompanied by the governor. Now, at 4 a.m. in the morning, the 3 most senior members of staff in the prison, inside HMP Birmingham at 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I was a hospital officer. You try getting any doctor, at 4 o'clock in the morning. You're going to be very fortunate to get through, never mind anything else, no matter what's happening. But to actually get that, anyway, he was declared dead, and within a matter of days, by all reports, his body had been, the death certificate had been issued. Death certificate said he died of a heart attack, and he had been cremated within days. I'd left the prison service at this time, because it was shortly after I left that he was found dead. And I had a big house in Manchester, great big place with cellars, and I'd converted the cellars into a discotheque and bar. And I was having a party there one night. My brother brought his friend, a solicitor from Manchester, and we were sat in the bar drinking and talking, and we were discussing Strange Ways, where I'd worked. And he said something to me about, you probably met my client, Terry Sinclair. I said, yeah, no, Terry Sinclair, but he's dead now, isn't he? He died of a heart attack in HMP Birmingham. He said, I'll tell you something, John. He said, if Terry Sinclair is dead, then how come I haven't been notified? Because I am his solicitor, and he's got property and businesses all over the world, not associated with drugs, but many other matters. He said, so why haven't I been notified? So you can work that out for yourself, yeah. Somebody had got Terry Sinclair out, and shortly after that, there were massive drug arrests all over Europe. I think what he'd done a deal with the government, and he'd reported on who was actually behind all the drug smuggling, and he'll now be on a witness protection scheme somewhere in the world. But is that corruption or is it not? I suppose it's you could say it makes sense to stop the drugs, but somebody who's murdering people is walking free, are they? But I'm telling you, there's undercover police all through the prison system. Everything is not as it seems in this mysterious world. And listen, I'll tell you something here. A lot of former prison officers say to me, how come all this has happened to you when I did 30 years in the prisons and I never saw anything like that? Well, within a week of me joining the prisons, it was quite obvious that what we were dealing here with was systematic abuse of human rights. That's number one. You can see that straight off, eyes wide open, yeah, not eyes wide shut. So I didn't spend 30 years walking around with my eyes shut. As soon as I walked through the gates, I knew what I was seeing and what I was hearing, and I dealt with it in an appropriate manner, I hope. And eventually, well, they got me in the end. You'll be able to read about this in my book, my forthcoming book, being published by Sean Atwood. It's called HMP Manchester Prison Officer. Yeah, and that's my book. Should be out in December, I believe. The cover's out. It's really effective, the cover. Sean's asking for opinions. Go on to Sean's page and have a look, his Facebook page. Right, I'm not going to sing to you today, but I better warn you all that this is a poem I wrote. That's the song dinger, that's the warning sign for all you Philistines who don't like the singing and the poetry. You can bugger off now. But I'm going to read you a poem from my book, Flowers and Collected Poems. And I thought I'd read you the title poem, Flowers. Now, this occurred to me, that I'll tell you why I wrote the poem. It occurred to me that as we go through life, there are certain signposts in life that we give each other flowers, don't we? We give our beautiful girlfriend flowers when we meet them on their birthday at Christmas time. We give flowers. Yeah, on anniversaries we give flowers. And signposts all the way through our life are marked by the gift of flowers. And why would we do that? Because it's something special. Flowers have a meaning. And so I thought, I'll write a poem about this. So this is Flowers by John G. Sutton. Flowers in the fields, wild roses grow. God's way of letting us know the most beautiful things sent from above. Flowers show us the power of love. I was just a child, aged only 3. I was in the garden by the old oak tree, picked some daisies growing there free, made a little posy for my dear mummy. I gave them to her, said I love you. These are the flowers I picked for you. I was 18 years, she was sweet 16, the loveliest girl I had ever seen. She held my hand, my heart beat fast. I had found the one for me at last. That Valentine's Day, the roses were red, gave them to my girl, with love the card said. On our wedding day, my bride wore white, flowers were glorious, colours so bright. She held my hand, yes I will, yes I do, together forever with a love so true. Her pink bouquet she threw to her friend. That night we knew our love would never end. Through the years, gave her flowers to say, our love is true, just like our wedding day. Each Valentine's the roses were red. I sent them to her, with love, the card said. Anniversaries came, the silver and gold. Time passed, but dreams don't grow old. Our children all grown, sent us flowers to say to our mum and dad on your special day. But time is a thief, and to all it will come, the final journey for us had begun. Now we lie side by side, our spirits are free. The flowers above are placed there with love. Flowers in the fields, wild roses grow. God's way of letting us know the most beautiful things sent from above. Flowers show us the power of love. When you think about it, there are thousands and hundreds of thousands of flowers sent to Buckingham Palace for the Queen. That was the country saying thank you. That was the power of our love. Hope you've enjoyed this. Tales from the Jails, John G. Sutton. Don't forget to have a look on Sean Atwood's site and have a look on his thing. I've done a little trailer there for my forthcoming interview, which will be on the 17th of October. He's uploading that to his site. Tales from the Jails. Thank you.